Hey there, Appalachian Trail lovers. Benji here with Busey TV. In this video, we're going to be talking about the benefits of staying in shelters along the Appalachian Trail. Shelters offer many benefits, and of course there are some downsides. I believe the benefits outweigh the bad, but we will go further into that in just a minute. Before we get into all this, I would like to ask each of you to like, comment on this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on that bell notification. That way you can stay up to date with all of my videos. It just takes a second to encourage me to keep making y'all these videos. Thank you for all your support, and I am sure that I have the best subscribers on YouTube. Y'all are awesome. So shelters. A typical shelter, sometimes called a lean-to, has an overhanging roof, a wooden floor, and 3 walls. Most, but not all, are near a creek or a spring, and many have a privy nearby, and that's awesome. Not only are they the best places to stay dry, but they reduce hiker impact on the trail environment. There are more than 250 backcountry shelters located along the AT at varying intervals. They are on average of about 8 miles apart, but can range anywhere from 5 miles to 15 miles apart, or even as much as 30 miles apart when there's a town or some sort of lodging in between. So it's important to plan ahead and prepare, carry a map or guidebook, or use an app such as FarOut. Just note that most of these shelters are on a first come, first served basis. Some shelters have food storage systems in place to protect food from bears and other animals, but the majority do not. These food storage systems are usually bear boxes, which is a large box that you can put your food inside and lock it up to keep the bears out. There's also cables in some of the trees, so you can easily hang your bear bags. Alrighty, let's get into shelters. Shelters are for all AT users. Hikers may occupy them on a first come, first served basis until the shelter is full. Although there are a few exceptions, most notably the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and Baxter State Park. Shelters are intended for individual hikers, not groups. So churches, don't bring your youth groups out there. So let's talk about the benefits of shelters. Shelters are the best places to stay dry in wet weather. And believe me, they fill up fast when it rains or when it's snowing or super cold. My favorite reason for staying in shelters is that they are often a good place to meet and talk with other hikers. After all, that is one of the main reasons that most people want to hike the AT, to get to meet other thru hikers and enjoy the thru hiking community, share stories with each other, tell jokes, talk about your life back home, talk about your why you wanted to hike the AT. Just a great way to meet new friends and pass the time. Most shelters have privies and water sources nearby. Not all, but most of them, and that is awesome. Another benefit, there are less ticks at shelters than there are at other campsites. That's because most of the area near shelters don't have a lot of foliage or grass like a regular campsite, so there's less environment for the ticks to live. Staying at shelters reduces hiker impact on the trail environment and is a good leave no trace practice. It concentrates use in a relatively small area, meanwhile other areas stay pristine. So, while I believe the benefits outweigh the downsides, we still need to talk about them. So, the downsides of shelters, what are they? Well, they may become overcrowded. You cannot choose who your shelter mates are. This can be a problem if there's someone you just don't get along with, or maybe a loud snorer, or the chatty guy who just doesn't want to sleep. Maybe there's someone who has a crush on you and you want to stay away from them. You probably don't want to stay in a shelter with them. Mice are common residents, especially where previous hikers have been careless with food. You may be exposed to viruses such as the coronavirus, the norovirus, or just a common cold carried by other hikers. No one wants to get sick hiking the AT. A good night's sleep may be difficult, especially if you are a light sleeper. And that brings me to shelter etiquette. Refrain from smoking or vaping in or near the shelters and privies. Help keep the shelter environment healthy and free of secondhand smoke. Pack out your cigarette butts. Make room for other hikers. Concentrate your gear into a small space. Don't set up tents inside the shelters. They're way too big. They can take up way too much space. You don't want to hang a hammock from any part of the shelter, as they're not designed to support the weight of the hammock. If you have a dog, consider tenting. It's not a requirement, just a courtesy, especially if your dog barks a lot, growls, drools, is wet, muddy, stinky, is overly friendly. Consider that your dog may have ticks. Keep your dog on a leash at all times and on a short leash if you bring him or her into the shelter to meet hikers. If you snore, you should probably tent. Not everyone will realize that they snore though, so bring earplugs just in case. Make phone calls away from the shelter. and use headphones or earbuds to enjoy your music. Allow nature's sounds to prevail and shelter visitors to converse with each other. Eat outside the shelter if at all possible. Spilled food can attract rodents and other animals. And don't cut down trees for firewood. Plenty of kindling along the trail. If a shelter has a privy, use it. Do not leave or burn trash or garbage in the fire pit. Don't leave extra food in the shelter, in any storage boxes, or hanging from the trees either, because they can attract rodents. Keep the grounds litter free. Carry out all your trash and leftover food. Sweep out the shelter when you arrive and when you leave, as even the smallest crumbs can attract rodents. Be considerate of other hikers. All shelter etiquette boils down to common courtesy in a very small shared space. Now, we do need to remember that these shelters are built and maintained by volunteers. Thank you, volunteers. Many volunteers live in towns or cities an hour or two away, and the hike into the shelter may take an hour or more. Hikers have the responsibility of helping take care of the shelters too. And if you see a shelter maintainer, please tell him or her thanks. Love y'all. Y'all do a great job. I hope you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful in helping you make your decision on shelters. If it was helpful, please let me know down in the comments below. And if you disagree and you think the cons outweigh the pros, let me know that also. I appreciate y'all's insight, as I'm sure some of y'all are way smarter than I am. Well, thanks for watching this entire video. If you made it all the way to the end, please let me know down in the comments below. It's exciting for me to see that y'all like these videos enough to watch the entire thing. It's awesome, thanks. Well, that's all for now, guys. Happy hiking.